Good morning, ladies, and welcome to our final installment for Megillas Esther this year, Tafshin Pei Aleph. Should be the year Mitzvah Shem of Mashiach Tzidkenu. We are now at Perek Daled. That's where we finished the first three prakim. We have learned amazing amount of lessons, and we are going to continue to do so, change our lives, get into the proper spirit of Purim, and hear the Megillah explained as never before by mostly, I said, Rav Brevda, Zecher Tzadik Levracha, and also we are going to at times bring in some other commentaries, and I will quote them when necessary. Okay, Perek Daled, after Perek Gimel is the Haman Perek, where, Haman comes on the scene and makes this evil decree to annihilate men, women, and children because one man doesn't bow down to him. We find Perek Daled, Pasuk Aleph, the first verse. Mordechai yada as asher nasa. He had Ruach HaKodesh. He knew what was going on. Vayikra Mordechai es begadav, vayilbash sak be'efer, and then he vayitzak zakag dola umara. What does Mordechai do when he first hears the news? He davens. He mourns. He tears his clothing. He puts on sackcloth and efer, and he goes and he screams a terrible scream. Now, when he knows what happened, he realized, Mordechai knew that there were two reasons why the Jews were having this gezerah, this punishment. Do any of you know? Well, I can't get into this. You're right now on Zoom. I forgot. So instead, I'll tell you. The two reasons were, one, way back when, they still haven't atoned for the sin that they bowed down to the statue of Nebuchadnezzar, because in those days, they were taken to task for that small thing. And the second reason why they were being punished here was that 18,500 people attended Achashverosh's party when Mordechai had told them, a Navi, a tzaddik had told them not to, and they didn't listen, and they went anyways, and the whole Jewish people are responsible for each other, so now there was going to be some decree. The first thing he did is tefillah. Most people today, their first reaction is, let's get someone on the phone. I have political connections. I'll call Esther. I'll call the Agudas Yisrael to act on my behalf. I'm going to get people involved, get you round up the troops, do something. Mordechai, on his holy madrega, on his holy level, realized that's the first address. How often do we make that our first address? Instead of going and petitioning, especially he's got the sister in the White House here, it doesn't matter. He first turns to tefillah. Now, what does it say? It says the expression here, Vayizak za'aka gdola umara. There is another place in Tanakh where we see this expression. Could someone tell me where that is? Vayizak za'aka gdola umara. Who else said it? You can tell me by chat. Raise your hand. I can't raise my own hand. I mean, I could, but it doesn't help. Okay, now we gave you enough time for thinking, ladies. Somewhere in the Chumash.
The Esav?
Isn't it the Bnei Israel in Mitzrayim? They gave a big yell, shriek. Yitzaku Bnei Israel.
Okay, Bnei Israel.
And Hashem heard them.
By Nizak, and we cried out to Hashem. We say that in the Haggadah. But this exact expression is used somewhere else in Tanakh. Somebody else said something. Not Bnei Israel Mitzrayim. Somebody said something else.
Esav.
Okay, that's Didi Zlotnick who heard me before.
Yes, Esav.
You're right. Your memory's still there. Thank you.
Hey, I remember something. Okay.
Anyways,
okay.
What does it mean by Zak Zakak Dola Umara? What does it mean? Why is this the same expression used by Esav? When did Esav say it? He said it when he lost the brachas to Yaakov. He screamed a powerful scream. Guess what, folks? We're told it says Elokim Yevakesh Es Hanirdaf. When somebody is hurt, afilu, even if it's a tzaddik that by accident insulted a Russia, Hashem always takes the side of the downtrodden. He always takes the side of the underdog. And because even though, albeit there was nothing wrong in what occurred, but since somebody's feelings were hurt, that person has to suffer. One time, Reb Moshe Feinstein banged his head against something, and he right away said, "Who did I hurt?" Now he said about himself after he passed away that he never hurt another human being. By the way, besides his greatness in Torah, perhaps that's how made Reb Moshe. He said he never remembers in his life, and he did a lot of soul searching, that he ever insulted another human being. In any case, the Elokim Yavakish, and if we have to keep that in mind, that, you know, even when we have to rebuke somebody, when we have to talk to somebody, if we're going to hurt someone's feelings, Elokim Yavakish Sanirda. And this is what happened. Asaph, and same thing with Yishmael, because Sarai afflicted Hagar. Till today, Hashem is hearing the voice of Yishmael because of the one time that Yishmael was afflicted by Hagar. That Yishmael's mother was afflicted, Hagar was afflicted by Sarah. So too, we have to be realized that because way back when Asaph was hurt, now comes the moment, just like Asaph screamed a scream he lost out on the brachas, now we are screaming the same exact scream, the same expression is used in the Megillah to express the suffering of the Jewish people. Now, what does he do? It says he went to the middle of the. He just starts screaming. He went to Sochair. He made a prayer session. He made a whole prayer rally that everyone should go and pray. Vayavo ad lifnei shar hamelach pasuk base in Perek Daled. He went. That's chapter 4, verse 2. He went until the royal area. We talked about the royal area last week. Ki ein lavo shar melech belvush sak. He didn't go to the royal area because you're not allowed to go there. It's not appropriate to go there when you're wearing sackcloth. Now, remember, he's got Esther in the palace. He's got a great ally that could help him. But no, it's more important to talk to the biggest ally, right? We have to talk to the biggest ally, and that's how we're going to get our help, not by some small change human beings. I have to throw this story in here. I may have mentioned it before. I love this story. Years ago, there was a man, that had a cap factory somewhere in New York State. He made caps, but he had an interesting way to express himself. Whenever he'd be sitting at his desk and someone would enter the store, the factory, and they'd ask him, "Who's the boss here?" He'd always point up like that. So we mentioned, I don't know if you remember the story or not, but one time what happened was he started noticing that for when they were distributing caps and shipping them out, they noticed that they were short. Their orders were always short in caps, and he said someone in the company must be like taking some for themselves, like they're not. Something's going wrong. The reason why we're all like, he'd be sending out 500 and they'd only get 497, let's say. There was always short and something was wrong. So he figured he had to do something. So he started watching carefully his employees to see which one of them could be taking some of the stock. Anyways, there was this one time, one of the women was leaving the factory and a few caps fell out of her bag. So now he had the culprit. He had the person, one of his workers. He told her, "I'm sorry, I can't continue employing you. You were caught stealing. You can't any longer work for me." So she wasn't too happy. The next day, he's sitting at his desk. A man comes in looking really aggressive and angry. And he says, "Where's the boss? Where's the boss?" And he does his usual shtick. He goes like, so the man says, meanwhile, while he's doing that, the man says, "Good, let me know." And he sees all of a sudden that there's a knife sticking out of this guy's back pocket. And so he discreetly calls 911 behind his desk, and the police come and they arrest him. And the man turned out was the brother of the woman that was fired the day before. He was very angry she was let go, and he went to take revenge. But because he kept saying who the real boss is, that's what saved his life. If we have the same practice that like Mordechai, really go to Hashem, not to intermediaries, and realize we have to do our hishtadlus, we have to do our efforts, but first go to the real boss. That's how we're going to get somewhere. Pasuk Gimel. And in every country, all of a sudden they proclaimed, fast. Everybody's like putting on sackcloth and crying. Sak ba'efer yutzala rabim. They're putting on sackcloth and dust for everybody. Now, Pasuk Daled. All of a sudden, we find that the women that were serving Esther, we said she had 7 maidservants. One of them was a Jew, so reminder of Shabbos. They kept Shabbos together. One of her maidservants wouldn't disclose her identity. So these women narrows Esther, and they told her, "Batischalchal hamalka." According to some Meforshim, she miscarried a child she was expecting with Achashverosh at that point, or she was just very upset. Chal means like to begin. It began. That's what means she gave birth again and again, which means like a miscarriage. It's the only time you use this expression in Tanakh. And she sent clothes to put. She heard Mordechai's all distressed. She sent clothes to him. He wouldn't accept the clothes. Now, today probably people would accept the clothes, and they would be doing the right thing. They first turned to Hashem, then they do their ishtadlus. But he was on such a holy level. He realized there's only one address. We have to turn to Hashem. So then, Pasuk Hey, she calls Hasach. Hasach, they tell us, is Daniel. And Daniel was one of the servants of the king. And she said, go to Mordechai and find out, Ladas Mazeh Ba'al Mazeh. What is this and why is this? Like, what's happening and why are you doing it? She knew everything he does is with a reason. The big tzaddik thinks before he makes a move. And she wanted to know what was going on. Okay, so now, Pasuk Vav, 6th verse. And Hasach went to Mordechai before Shar HaMelech, and they told Mordechai everything. Asher Karahu, Pasuk Zion. Karahu is a hint that there's an Amaleki problem. Amalek, when Amalek came to fight against the Jewish people, it says Asher Karcha Baderech. He made cool the ways for the Jewish people. Kara with hey means coincidence. It just happened. Amalek always has that attitude. There's no God. There's no godliness. Everything just, so to speak, happened. So he's telling him, Asher Karo, there's an Amalek problem here. This is what Daniel's telling Mordechai. The Es Parshas HaKesef, he's telling him also, he gave him 10,000 silver talents. Haman gave, to the king's treasury to get rid of the Jews. And then also the Pashek and Ksav Hadas, also there was an edict put out already on paper to destroy them, to tell Esther and to command her to go to the king to beg him, to beg him for her nation. Pasuk Tes, verse 9, chapter 4. Hasach tells Esther, like it's all back and forth there, and then Esther tells him, everybody knows that no one can enter the king's inner chamber without being, summoned. And I have not been summoned for 30 days. And they told Mordechai, and then Mordechai goes back to Esther. I have to say these words. I'm trying to paraphrase so we can finish as much of the Megillah as possible. But anyways, Mordechai, she answers Mordechai, and she says beautiful words. Mordechai tells her, Al tadami b'nafshech. Don't imagine limaleit beis hamelech b'kol haYehudim, that you're going to escape, from the king's wrath. Like, you're going to escape this mission you're given from the Jews to go approach the king. Kim acharesh tacharishi. If you're going to be quiet, if you're going to remain silent, if you're not going to approach the king, the great thing is going to happen from some other place. And you and your father's family will be lost. And who knows if that's not the reason you came to this. You know what? There's a big, huge lesson for all of us here. We always have to look at all these things in Tanakh, not just to look at, nice story, nice sentiment, beautiful words, poetic. What is the message here for us? We each have a mission. Somebody asked me, I told you weeks ago, about missions in life and everything. Here's another aspect to having a mission. And that aspect is, if somebody is given an opportunity and he wastes it, who knows if he wasn't the one? Hashem has many messengers. If we don't do it, somebody else will. If we don't give the tzedakah for this shul, or help this group take care of these people, or help somebody else will. Hashem has many messengers. But who knows if that wasn't supposed to be our task? And then I feel we have to decry the use of the internet. How much time is wasted? Who knows what we're supposed to do with that precious time that we were given? There are things we can do. There are people that are alone. There's people we can comfort. There's more davening to do. There's more tzedakah to do. We can help arrange things on the phone to help other people, help other organizations. And we all need to unwind sometimes. But how much unwinding do we need already? I know a lot of people feel all this kind of emotions going on. We have to try to use these things to do tshuva, to do chesed, to do things that we're here in the world to do. That's what we're here in the world to do. You know, let's remember these words when we hear the Megillah. If we are silent when it's our time, the spotlight's on us now. We have something we could do for Hashem. Don't give up your opportunities. We have wasted opportunities. Someone approaches us. We have to know when to say no. Rav Scheinberg, Zachar Tzaddik Livracha used to say about Chesed is a person who knows when to say no. You know, because you can't, if you're saying yes, maybe somebody else is going to suffer. And it could even be you, you know, but for the most part, we should try to help other people or do the things that we're given an opportunity to do and jump for opportunities. Then Esther told Mordechai, Lech kenosis kol Yehudim, gather all the Jews together, fast for me, don't eat or drink for 3 days. I and my maidens will do the same. And then I'm going to go to the king when I was not summoned. Kasher avadati avadati. Okay, according to the opinions that Esther was married Mordechai, she is no longer allowed back to her husband, because if a woman does against her will is taken by somebody else, that's against her will. She's allowed back to her husband. But if she's now going on her own to Achashverosh, she can no longer, she's giving up her marriage. Now, there are many of their opinions in the Gemara that says she was not married to Mordechai, but kasher avadati could just be meant simply she may lose her life for going to the king when she was not supposed to go. And then Mordechai did everything Esther told him, and he reported back to everybody about this. Now, Parak Hay, 5th chapter. On the 3rd day, a lot of people take, the Vilna Gaon takes this to mean this is all in a figurative sense that Esther again also davened. When she said she wore royal clothing, it's being taken in 2 senses. One, the sense of Achashverosh, but why would the Megillah tell us this if it wasn't important? And it also said she stood in the Chatzar base, she stood right against the king. She prayed for her people. You know, we know Kapitel Chaf Daled, Keli, Lama Zavtani. This is what Esther said, you know, when she was going to the king's room. Now, and he's sitting on his throne. And then when he sees Esther, and he gives her the sharvit, he gives her the scepter, and she touches it. Now, we're told by the Medrash, Rabbi Brevda brings down by the Medrash, that originally, oh, thank you. Only you would know. You're right. I was thinking that as I said it, that it's maybe chaf beis. I was thinking, you're right. You are right. It's chaf beis, not chaf daled. Thank you. Only Devorah Pullman without that. Anyways, so any case, so what's it called? So when we're told that she enters, the Medrash says at first he was fuming. He sees Esther approach. He says, the first wife, these women, the first one I told her to come, she didn't come. This one I don't tell her to come, she comes. Women, they never do what we want. You know, we're here to test our husbands. You know that, and they're here to test us. That's the whole purpose. Like Victor Miller says, a marriage is like sandpaper. It makes both people smooth. By being so rough, it smooths both people out. Everybody really doesn't feel like doing what the other person wants, but by doing so, you smooth yourself out, you know, in between. In any case, he's about ready, but Hashem like suddenly put the chain in her. It was a miracle. He was not ready to be so nice to Esther. Rav Breuer, I forgot his first name. He's the son-in-law of Rav Shimshon Farhirsch, once said an explanation of the pasuk, Poseach es yadecha umaspia l'chol chai ratzon. What does it mean? Maspia l'chol chai ratzon means Hashem puts the ratzon, he puts the desire in somebody else's heart to want us. Why is someone hired for the job? The interviewer just says, I don't know, I think he'll be a good fit. You know, Hashem just put it in the brain of that interviewer, the ratzon, maspil hochai, he gives each person the ratzon to want. I feel like giving him a raise. I feel like marrying him. I feel like doing good for him. That is, you're just that person's a messenger for Hashem. He gives him the ratzon. Now, so she's now before the king, And so he tells her, Malach Esther Malka. That means, according to the Vilna Gaon, what personal thing do you have? Do you have anything personally risking your life to come here? Is there a personal problem you have? And what's your, are you coming here to petition for someone else? I'm not giving you the Beis Hamikdash or anything around there, but I'll give you anything else. And Esther says, if you want, you and Haman should come to the Mishta that I'm making today. I'm having a party. I want you and Haman to attend the party. Now, why did Esther invite Haman to the Mishta? There are 15 explanations given by the Gemara. We're just going to give you 3. Why Esther invited Haman to this party. Number 1, he'll let his guard down and perhaps they'll catch him in a trap. That's 1. Number 2, for the Jews, they should not think they have a sister in the White House, that they should know that their dear Esther has invited their arch enemy to the Suda, so they won't give up, let down their guard with the davening. And the 3rd reason, he's presenting a triangle. There's going to be Haman and the king. Like the king may be very jealous. One man to invite, if you're inviting all the ministers, invite all the ministers. You're inviting this man and my husband and me. So it's a little bit strange. This also maybe would cause, a little bit of a set up a trap for Haman. Now, Esther was willing to be, I heard this from some of the Nevardiker Divrei Torah. Esther was willing to be hated by the Jews in order to put this trap through for the sake of Hashem, to try to trap Haman. And the amazing thing is not one Jew informed on Esther through all these years. Remember, we said that, didn't inform on Esther that she was a Jewess, which would have really been till now really problematic. Now it's amazing. It's a miracle. There were 365 advisors and nobody suspected a trap. Nobody suspected that there was some trap here that was being proposed. Amazing. Now, so they have this party and he said, Maharu, like it's immediate. The party is right now. So the right away, the next verse, Pasuk Vav, the 6th verse, the king tells Esther, what's your personal request and what's your national request? I'll give you half the kingdom. And Esther says, this is my personal and my national, because this is how much she felt for the Jewish people. Have I found favor in your eyes? Come again to another party, and tomorrow I'll do what the king has told me to do. Now, why did Esther? First of all, Esther is risking her life. He invited her to tell him, reveal to him what's her thing. She felt she davened to Hashem to see a sign. Now, this is something that I would like to explore for myself. I did not find any answers. I will try to bring this to you at some later date. But my question on this is, which is unanswered, is how can you, ask for a sign? I don't know. I know Eliezer asked for a sign with Rivka. So maybe because this was a national thing, he was allowed to ask for a sign, because usually, we don't go by signs usually. I mean, sometimes you do. I've heard of cases where people were in trouble and they said, give me a sign, Hashem, you still love me. I guess it's not an Avera to ask for it. I just read something in this Zera Shimshon, where in fact, there was a man in England who asked for a sign that Hashem loves him, that the rabbi should visit him and do Bikur Cholim. And the rabbi came that day. It was a man all alone who needed a guest. And I think he even asked for 2 different people to show up, and both of them specifically showed up the next day to show him to show that a simple Jew's prayers are not for naught. Any case, so she she asked for a sign. She didn't see a sign, so she says, you know what? I'm going to keep going until I see a sign. So she wants them now to come to tomorrow until she sees some sign from Hashem that so the king says, okay, we'll give you tomorrow. So listen, Pasuk Tes, Vayetze Haman, verse 9. Haman left that day Sameach B'tov Lev. Sameach means happy, and Tov Lev means he's completely at ease. Why was Haman Sameach B'tov Lev? Was he never happy like that before? So listen to the brilliant idea that Vilna Gaon proposes. He says, at that moment, Haman always had a little niggling, like any megalomaniac, he has a little niggling doubt in his heart. His doubt is maybe why is Mordecai not bowing down to me? And why is he going against me? Maybe it's because he has some allies somewhere. I did a background check, and just like Trudeau, can check on all your backgrounds and everything, and also the Facebook and all these other places can do everything about you. I did a background check, and so far I think everyone's a supporter. The only person I know, maybe I don't know about, is Esther. I don't know her background. I don't know who she is. Maybe it's connection with the queen. Maybe that's why Mordecai has the audacity to not bow down to me. So he's all upset. But now when Esther invites him a second time to the party, he says, you know what? Even Esther's on my side. Everything's great. Everything's fine. He feels totally and completely at ease because there's an expression, I believe it's in Koheles. Dvorah Bullman, tell me if it's a Mishlei or not. It says, Lifnei Shever Gaon. Before a person falls apart, they are first raised to very high, like it says in Ovadia. If you're going to go up to the cracks of the mountain, the highest peak of the mountain, Misham Orid Chanum Hashem. Hashem always makes the oppressors of the Jewish people the greatest leaders of the world, because he anyways wants us to punish them. And these people think they're God's gift to man. And that way they really, show what they're metal when they're given so much power. And then after that, they just burst their balloon and they're all gone. So what happened was he goes home now. And when he sees Mordecai standing in the Shar HaMelech. Mordecai is not going into the royal area again because he's wearing sackcloth, but he stands right at the area where it's right at the gateway to go to the king. And below Zami Menu. Here in this occasion, before we said everybody used to fall down on the floor like Korib and Aleinu. They used to fall on the floor, prostrate themselves before Haman. And he was exempt because he's not in the Shar HaMelech. Only the people in the royal area had to prostrate, but he was standing outside the Shar HaMelech, Mordecai. Not only he didn't have to bow, but he didn't even flinch. He didn't tip his hat to him. He didn't say, your prime minister or whatever, nothing. He didn't even move a muscle for him. And then Haman he's filled, Mordechai Chema, he's filled with anger that one man doesn't bow down to him. As we said before, when a person has a desire for honor, there's no end to it. A person can mamish, because honor, covet, is something that's spiritual. If you listen to the Bitachon Hotline like I do, he says 9 times out of 10, when we're upset at somebody, it's because of covet. Most of the time when people, like you expect your daughter-in-law to talk to you a little differently than she did, or you expect your children to treat you a little differently than they did, or anything, because covet is the hardest trait to eradicate. It's totally a spiritual trait. It's not based on any physical thing at all. It's all spiritual. And people do deserve covet. They do. There is, because we have an neshama. We do deserve covet. But we have to fight that when it gets to the point where we're jealous and angry and vengeful and all these other things, we have to suspect ourselves of engaging in honorifics. But he controlled himself for 5 seconds, and he went to his house, and he brings all his beloved people and Zeresh, his wife, and he tells them, look what he does to calm himself down. What does he tell them? All his money. He's sitting there counting his money. I own stocks and the Trump Hotel, and I just hope it'll stay. And then he's talking about all his children. He has so many children and everything. I mean, the king made him Hagidloi a melech. He has his the king gave him Gedula. He gave him a lot of money. And Asa Sherni Sola Sarim, and he's the highest prime minister, all his covet and Taiva and Kina and all the things that he has achieved, all the external trappings, which doesn't mean he's a better person. And then he said, Lo hivia Esther Malkim Amelech Elamishta Ki'im Osi. She only invited me to the next meal. And also tomorrow I'm invited. Pasuk Yud Gimel, 13th verse. And all of this is not worthwhile because one man is not bowing down to me. Mordechai, I can't take it. Come on. We do this too in our own little way. We say, I'm not saying it's little. Sometimes people have major problems, but look what Hashem, every kol neshima v'neshima, every breath we take, the sky rising and setting every day. I mean, the sun rising and setting, not the sky. The sky is always there. We have all the wonderful people in our lives. We have so much to be grateful for, and we're always fixated on Kol Zeh Nanu Shoveli. This one thing I don't have, entitlement. Where is it? Do we forget that Hashem gave us everything we own? Anyways, Rav Yehuda Leib Chasman, very famous story, but it's worth repeating. Rav Yehuda Leib Chasman, Zecher Tzadik V'Kadosh L'Vracha, not Kaddish, but he was a Kaddish, Ish Kaddish, but he didn't die Al Kiddush Hashem. Rav Yehuda Leib Chasman once said in Or Yahel, he mentioned, covet is so hard to get rid of. People should know as they age, your senses become dulled. You know, your taste buds are not as strong as when you were young, right? Your sense of smell maybe isn't as strong as when you were young. So usually he said, when one person has one sense that's weak, other senses become stronger. Like often a blind person can hear better than a regular person. He says, what becomes more acute as you age? The desire for covet gets stronger and stronger. You expect, I'm of age. People should already, they have to look at me and feel, some kind of respect. I'm due respect. And he was once at a meeting of Gedolim, and one person got up and he said, I'm 85 years old. I have one foot in the grave now. You have to listen to me because everything I say is totally the Shem Shemayim. So Rav Yehuda Leib Chasman answers him, and I say, quote Harav, I'm sorry to say this to you, but as we get older, covet, the desire for covet gets older, and it doesn't mean that everything we're doing is the Shem Shemayim unless we think about it, because we have more of a desire for covet as we get older. So any case, okay, now, and then Zeresh tells him a piece of advice. He says, I see Mordechai, I don't know what to do. I can't take it. And tomorrow I'm second to the king and I'm going to be at this meal, but I can't take it. Mordechai, look what's going on. So Zeresh said, Yasu eitz, a tree should be made. That's the proper diktuk here, the proper grammar. You don't tell Haman to do anything. He's going to fall into a terrible tantrum if you tell him to make the tree. She just said a tree should be made 50 amos high. Amos usually the length from your elbow to the top of your arm. And in the morning, tell the king, and they'll hang Mordechai on the tree. And when the king goes to the party, he'll be very happy. And Haman is very happy with this idea. He makes a tree. But there's a few details that are added on, Rabbi Grevta. And he says like this: she was such a genius. She figured out the trajectory that when Haman sits at the party, they have to make the tree 50 amos high, because from there in his backyard, you'll be able to see the next Mordechai swinging in the breeze. They'll be able to see from the 50 amos, from that far, he'll be able to see Mordechai, swinging. And she says, what does it mean? Boker? It's all by itself in the verse. It says, and in the morning, and more lamella. She said like this: listen, there's still a chance that somebody was unchecked, even though this is Stalinist Russia, and perhaps there is one person that favors Mordechai. So you know what? A king gets up maybe 11 o'clock in the morning, just like people do Sunday morning. Sometimes they say we had a light Lava Malko, we're going to get up for davening at 11. So she said, you get up at 4:45 before Hashkama. You get up before Nates. Get up in the morning before anybody comes. Be first in line for the king. Therefore, nobody can influence him for Mordechai. You just tell him, your thing first. You'll be the first person. Tell him about that Mordechai doesn't bow to you, so he's a threat to the monarchy. He's a threat. He doesn't bow to you, so even more so, he doesn't believe in the king. And then he'll be hanging. You'll sit there at the Mishteh. You'll be very happy. And Haman liked the idea. And by Ya'as ha'etz, that means Haman himself made the tree. He constructed the gallows himself. It says, what is it called? Ahava mekalkelis ashura. Love breaks all boundaries. Usually when you love somebody, you don't have to follow the rules. You're just so crazy. You'll call in the morning, you'll call at night. One person once said that being in love is like having the flu. Any case, so what happens is that Haman, just like Avram, we do bris milas in the morning, like Avram did. Like, it wasn't an easy thing to do, but his love of Hashem, he says, I'm going to do right away in the morning and do the bris milah, even though it's hard for me to do it. We do it first thing in the morning. Haman couldn't wait. He couldn't sleep all night. He's up and he's sitting, busying himself, making the gallows. Now, something else happened at this point that's mentioned in the Medrash. that, by the way, also, I forgot to mention, covet can make somebody physically ill. Kinetaiva and covet, any three of them, the desire for wealth, the desire for jealousy, or desire for honor, person can become physically ill. It can affect him so terribly. It can get to the point of someone needs to die from some stupid thing you got to get out of your head. Okay, anyways, now, so what happens that night? The Medrash says that Haman goes to Shushan. He wanted to see the last night of his life. There were 22,000 young boys. I don't know what the age they began fasting, perhaps 6 years old, a gil chinuch, the age of chinuch, but everyone, men, women, and children, fasting 3 days straight. Haman said to all the children, I'm going to shackle you. All 22,000 children, I'm going to put you in chains because tomorrow, the night is your last night in this earth. The heilige Jewish mamas, the holy Jewish women, what did they do? They went to their children and they said, my kindlech, you've been fasting for 3 days. I don't want you to die now. I want you to die al Kiddush Hashem tomorrow morning. Can you imagine? This is the Medrash says, I want you to die al Kiddush Hashem. Please take a little bit to eat to break your fast now so you'll be alive for the morning. So when Haman kills you, you'll have died al Kiddush Hashem. You'll go to a holy place. At that moment, Nadadash Nas Hamelech, Hashem said, enough. Jewish women are already giving me a hard time. The Jewish children are already suffering. Now it's time to bring the Yeshua. Now it's time to save the Jewish people. That's what 4 o'clock in the morning, approximately, Achashverosh wakes up from a bad dream. What is his dream? It says, Nadadash Nas Hamelech. What was he dreaming about? He's thinking, usually it says 99% of dreams are things we're worrying about. So he's thinking in his dream, he's thinking, why is Esther not telling me what she wants? What could be going on? Is there something, is there something that's against me? Is somebody plotting to take me? And he's hearing voices. Haman wants to kill you. He's all confused. He's feeling like, what is going on? Why is Esther not revealing? So what does he decide? Maybe there's somebody politically against me. Maybe let me look in my book of Chronicles. Maybe there's somebody that once did me a good turn I never repaid, and they're upset at me. So he decides to take out his Sefer HaZichronos, his book of Chronicles, and they were read before the king. The person reading them was Shamshai, one of the sons of Haman, and when he saw the words he starts reading about Bigsan and Viserys, these two people planning to kill the king, and how Mordechai saves his life. He kept wanting to skip over that, but the king starts noticing, you're skipping something, read it. And then finally he reads it as Asher Higid. If you notice in Pasuk Beis, it says, as it was told. In other words, he didn't want to tell it. It was written, but he didn't want to tell it. It talked about Bigsan and Viserys that were trying to plot to kill the king's life, and here Mordechai overheard them, and he understood their language, and he had them, had them killed. And then the king asked the question, Mama say Yakar Gdula Mordechai. Was Mordechai ever given, Yakar means, was he ever given some type of honor? And Gedula is money. Yakar is money. I'm sorry. Oh, they always mix this up. Yakar is kavod. Yeah, and Gedula is money. Was he ever paid back this way? And Nare Hamelech, who's here? Nobody's there at 4 o'clock in the morning except his pages. Again, the small people save the day. They say, Lo nase motavar. Why? They want Haman cooked. They want Mordechai honored and Haman cooked. They can't stand bowing down to him and falling on the floor every time they're doing their work. And they don't like his antics, and they're tired of him. So they said nothing was ever done for him. Now the king asked in verse 4, Mi b'chatzir, this is Perek Vav again, chapter 6, verse 4. The king says, who's in the courtyard? Now why is he asking? The answer is, according to this parish, he's seeing who's advising him right now. For some reason, this time he doesn't want to hear from the pages, from the butler, the person shining his shoes, the person bringing him his breakfast. He doesn't want to hear from them. He says, look, this man saved my life, and it's a national thing. I want the world to love me. So he says, is there any advisor around somewhere that we could consult with to say how to pay back this man that saved my life? Because what are you guys going to say? You're going to say Windex, give him bleach for a month. What are you going to say? A new vacuum cleaner? Like, this is your hasaga. This is where you're thinking. I want to hear like from a higher up, advisor. I want to hear, what do we do to honor this man? I want to hear higher advice here. So Haman balachatz there just then. He's first in line. Why? Because he's going to tell about this terrible man named Mordechai that deserves to be hung. And he's just how happens has the gallows in his backyard, whatever. And he's about to come with this. And then the fifth verse, and then Ari Melech says, Hine Haman, there's Haman right there. Oh boy, is this going to be a treat. Well, now Haman's out there. And he said, come. Haman walked in and he says, Malasos ba'ish asher melech hafetz bikaro. What should we do for a man that the king wants to? Yikaro means honor. Now, it doesn't say monetary reward, it just says honor. How would you honor somebody? So Haman's thinking, I'm the second richest man in this kingdom. So it must be me because, of course, you think that way when you're Haman. It must be me. He says, because after all, money I don't need. So he just wants to give honor. It must be me. So that's why he repeats it. And he told him, Haman, okay, who else is he going to do? Haman says, Ish, Asher, Hamelach, Hafetz, Bikaro. He's repeating the words. He's relishing the words. He's thinking, what do I want? What do I want? Now, covet, it's so stupid. It's like a childish thing. Someone's going to honor you. No one's going to even know about you a year from now, But what he says, they should bring the clothing that the king wears and the horse that the king uses. And then they should even put the crown of the king. And then they take it on this person and they're going to walk him around and they're going to say, this is the man the king wants to honor. Bring him on for 2 hours. It's like a child wanting to dress up as a policeman on Purim, says Rabbi Brevda. He's a press policeman, but then 2 hours later, his mother's going to say, go to bed. You had enough for today. It's a dream. It's a stupid, it's nothing. It's illusory, but people run after these honorifics, these titles, their name on the plaque. They want everybody should know what they did. And the Rabbi Victor Miller always says, try to do one thing a day that nobody knows about, because it doesn't matter what people think. Rabbi Lowy once tells me it doesn't even matter if your kids should know about it. Even for chinuch, there should be some of your kids don't even know. Any case, so the king says to Haman, hurry up, take this lavush and the sus and do it to Mordechai Yehudi. Don't leave one thing out. Why did they say one thing out? Because they knew he doesn't want to really do any of those things to Mordechai. And then Haman took all these things and he gets him dressed. Now, Haman was formerly a barber. And, he had to give him a haircut first. And then Mordechai made it really difficult for him because for an Amaleki, you're allowed to drive him nuts. You're allowed to drive him nuts because it's a God-hating man who not only doesn't believe in God, but exactly like against God. So he's allowed to do all these spiteful things to him. And he drives him around the town and he says, Kacha yasela ish asher melech hafetz bikaro. This is what they're going to do for a man that the king honors.
One moment, Mrs. Weisswasser. One moment. We're having a little technical difficulty. Okay, my apologies. Are you able to go back one sentence?
I'm here. Okay, now now what happened at this scene? The very famous medrash, Haman's daughter was bathing on the roof with all of her perfumes in the bath and all kinds of who knows what else. And she's looking down and she sees one man leading another man on a horse with the whole royal thing. And she figured, this is my brilliant mother, Zeresh. It must be that, Mordechai is doing this. He's honoring my father. And then later Mordechai is going to be killed. So she's so upset. She takes her bath water. She spills it. It falls on her own father because she thought this was Mordechai, was her father. She looks down, he looks up to see who did it. Their eyes meet. And one thing Amalek did, children of Esav, they honor their parents. No one ever honored his father like Esav. she was so distraught, she jumped off the roof and killed herself. This is what we know from the Medrash. This is what happened. Now, because okay, so this is what happened. Now, the interesting thing here is that, okay, no, we'll mention this a little bit later. Any case, okay, now the next verse. So now, Pasuk Yud Beis, the 12th verse, Mordechai goes back to the Shar HaMelech. He sees the Yeshua, the salvation is not there totally yet. He continues davening, continuing to daven. And Haman ninchaf el beiso Avel. Why is he called Avel? Because he just lost his daughter, the Chafui Rosh, and humiliated that he had all this bath water poured over him, besides the fact that he had to lead, the king's thing. So he's stinking with stinking bath water. He's all wet. He just lost his daughter. And now all of a sudden he's telling Zeresh, well, everything happened. And she says, if it's from the Jewish people, you're going to fall. And they're still talking. What they should have said was, he didn't have even time to tell her, take down the tree, take down the tree. It's incriminating evidence now. Take down the tree. Didn't have time. He was taken immediately in that condition to the party of Esther, the second party. And they took it by Avhilu Haman. He just immediately, Yeshua Hashem Geheref Ayin, Nitz Hashem Bayas. We don't know how. We all look at the political side. We think this political move could help us. If this one wins, if this one loses, everybody was saying, oh, if Trump gets back in, it's going to be great. Trump didn't get back in. Now we say, if this happens, it's going to be great. We don't know. Hashem has other ideas that we never could dream of that could happen to save us at any given time. 7th chapter. Now the Melech and Haman come to the second party, and they're coming to drink, of course, and it's not, it's not just water or Perrier. And in any case, he tells to Esther on the second day, what do you want personally? What do you want for your people? And then she gives a beautiful speech. Give me my people are my heart, and my people are myself, and everything. It's all one. And because somebody's coming, we are sold now to be destroyed totally. And I would be quiet. Here's her big line. If we'd be avadim u'shvachostim karnu harashti, if it would only be for money for the king, that we'd be slaves, that would be good enough. But no, we're not even going to be good for slaves now. She's trying to appeal to a sense of money because that's probably all he cares about. Because it's not equal that the loss he's going to have by getting rid of my people. So he says, who is this person that wants to do this to you? Now they say that Esther's speech, by the way, it's Megillas Esther. What makes Esther so great is her self-sacrifice, that she's willing to sacrifice her life on two accounts, many times. She sacrifices her marriage to get married to such a king, sacrifices her life and instead of taking Botox and getting her drinking energy drinks before she goes to the king, she's fasting for 3 days. She probably can imagine how you look after Yom Kippur. Imagine 3 days of fasting, what she must have looked like, And then she looks like this, and because it's all tefillah, she's davening the entire time, and she's unafraid of anybody. But we're told that Esther's appeal here barely made a dent. The real thing that changed the whole Megillah are a few things. One is, they're coming up. They're all coming up. But not what she said now makes a little dent, but it's not going to save the day for the Jewish people. So sometimes you don't have to do the action that makes you the heroine. It's your intent, your thought, your self-sacrifice, willing to be mavater, willing to overcome your nature. Like Rav Chatzkel Levenstein once said, that he enjoyed always overcoming his nature. Like he would always choose the side of the difficult, because that would be the side that he improves himself more. Anyways, what's happening now? So she tells him, Vatomer Esther, Ish Tsar Ba'oyev, who is my enemy? The Medrash says she was going to point at Achashverosh. She was so unafraid, so thinking she's talking to Hashem the whole time during this conversation, begging Hashem, only Hashem is the center focus of her speech. And then but the Malach came, pushed her hand away, and pointed it at Haman. That's how unafraid, because he was an anti-Semite too. He's willing to kill the Jews. So any case, now, so the So he got up with tremendous anger. Pasuk Zion, verse 7. And he went to his garden. Why did he go to the garden? So says the Medrash, he wanted to relax. He doesn't want to make the same move he made with Vashti. So it says, we're told in the Gemara that green and blue are colors that calm people down. That's why we want to look, and we have summer. That's why summer is so relaxing. The green and blue. It's a good color to put in your house. Green and blues, they make you calm. The Vilna Gaon had a blue ceiling, by the way, in his private room, to remember Hashem. But also blue and green happen to be very calming colors. So he's going out there. The Medrash says that there was Hashem made like winds blowing and things were falling down, so he shouldn't relax so much. And he hears voices that Haman is destroying the garden. He's hearing voices. So this is strike one, really. That he is Haman. She just incriminated him that he's wants to kill my people. And he didn't say yet which people she is. She still hasn't revealed herself as a Jew, which would maybe also not be so great. But he says, killing my wife's people. And also, I'm hearing he's destroying my garden. So he's really fuming. He can't calm down from being in the garden. The Haman Amad Lavakesh al Nafsho. He goes up to Esther's couch. They all were in the harems on their couches like that. So he's lying on the couch and he's trying to. It said it looked like he was about to kill her because he kept falling on her couch. Hashem made that happen, and it looks like he's trying to kill her. So the king says, "Oh, now 3 strikes. It looks like you're getting rid of the queen." Like you're trying to kill her people, you're trying to fall over on the couch, and also you're trying to destroy my garden. And he's coming back, and he's nofel al amita, that's pasuk ches. And then he says, "You also want to conquer my queen?" And Haman is like totally like, embarrassed. And then Harvona. Some people say Harvona was either his former best friend, Haman's best friend. Other people say he was one of the people that brought Haman to the party. And at the party, he overheard them talking about the gallows that Haman made. As Erish, remember, was telling about, they're talking about the gallows right before he left, right before he was picked up for the first party. So Harvona just adds on a small line. Oh, Gam Ha'etz. There's also a tree in his backyard that he wanted to hang up Mordechai. The one that they just said that saved the king's life. And the king says, hang him on that tree. Now that rule was established by Haman himself, that now the king can request for anything personal. Anything personal, the king is a total autonomy. Tulu alav. And they hung him up on the tree that he was planning for Mordechai, and then the king is calmed down. Now, we find in Perek Ches, we're not going to cover everything here, but we're going to cover some extremely amazing highlights for another 10 or 15 minutes max. Any case, the king gave Achashverosh the house of Haman. What's the significance there? You may have wondered a question that I learned from Rabbi Galinsky Zatzal. He says, how could he take the house of Haman? You're not allowed to take anything from Amalek. You're not allowed to own, like you're supposed to destroy them and their property. That was what Shaul HaMelech did wrong. He didn't destroy the cattle. He thought it would be good for a korban. How could he not destroy the house of Haman? Why did he give it to Mordechai? They gave everything. Because one time the king gave Mordechai and Haman each money, and they were supposed to do some mission for the king, and Haman lost all his money. So Mordechai said, I'll lend you money, but you have to agree on paper to be my slave. So Haman signed to it. So now anything that belonged to Haman really belongs to Mordechai. And that's how we got around that loophole that everything belongs to him. But there's another big message. And that message, he says, is the idea of fighting the Yetzer Hara. We have to know when we see some sinister enemy, be it a politician, and there are plenty of them today, be it governments, be it anything that looks that they're out to harm us in any way, we have to realize that ultimately that person is going to have a downfall. Am Yisrael Chai, the Jewish people always live, and so too the Yetzer Hara. It may be a momentary temptation. But ultimately it fades away, like it fades away. And afterwards you see that it was nothing. You see the whole thing was nothing and it meant nothing. Something that really seemed like a real threat is gone. Look at all the horrible enemies of the Jewish people. Where's the Greek Empire? Where's the Roman Empire? Where's the Spanish with all their inquisitions? Where are all the, the Bolsheviks? I mean, the whatever the what are they called, the Romanov dynasty, and all these other people that the Khalmanitsky and all these people that tormented us, they're gone. They're not here anymore, and we're still here. And the Yetzer Hara has that same thing. At a moment, it's burning. You have to say this Lashon Hara. You have to do this dastardly thing, and then 5 minutes later, it's gone. And same thing. Haman, ultimately, his whole house went to Mordechai. Unbelievable. And he's the one you'd think least likely to get his home. He's the one didn't flinch. Then he gave him his ring and he gave it to Mordechai. Now, Pasuk Gimel, I'm not going to go into details, but all the Pasuk Gimel, according to the Vilna Gaon, all these are different forms of prayer. Tosef is like Psuke to Zimra. To Daber Lifnei HaMelech is Vaydaber Hashem Moshe Lemor, that's Shema. And she fell, that's Tachanun, and she cried, that's Shmona Esrei. She was still davening because they still didn't take away the decree from the Jews. So he gave her permission. She's now allowed to take back all those decrees from before that destroyed the Jews on the 13th of Adar. Now the Jews can take revenge on the 13th of Adar of all these, of all these enemies of theirs. Okay, so it talks about, they can go, and we know this is where we learn the laws of Shushan Purim, that if you lived in Shushan, you had an extra day to take it against your enemies because they claimed there were a lot of extra anti-Semites in Shushan particularly. So they had an extra day and then they rested on the 15th day of Adar. So that is basically a synopsis of the 9th chapter. Now, in the 10th, and I'm sorry, 8th chapter. In the 9th chapter, one more minute. Wait, is this, yes, I do have to get into this. Pasuk Tesvav, Perek Ches, chapter 8, verse 15. Mordechai Yatza Lifnei HaMelech. Mordechai went in front of the king. Bilvush Malchus. There's 5 different terms used of the different things he wore. Techeles, Chur, Atera Sahav, Gedola Sachrich, Butz, Sachrich Butz, Argaman. Wore 5 different garments, and Shushan was very happy. Now, 5 different expressions of crying were used for Mordechai in the Megillah. It says, Vayikra, he tore his clothes. Vayilbash sak ve'efer. No, sak is one. I'm sorry, sackcloth. He wore sackcloth. He put on dust on his clothes. Sakak dola umara. Those 5 expressions were paid back by the 5 forms of royal garments that Mordechai later wore. Wore 5 garments because of the suffering that he had for the Jewish people. He was paid back. We find this many times. When we give in for other people, we get paid back double. Leah, when she was expecting Dinah, she says, I'm going to have an extra shevet. I'm going to have an extra tribe, and my sister is going to be so humiliated. She only has 1 child, and I have 7. So she davened it should be a girl, and she had Dinah. And look what happened. Dinah got taken by Shem. It looks like Leah and her great dreams and ideas are lost. She gets taken by Shem. But what happens? Leah has a daughter with Shem, and her name is Asnas. And Asnas marries Yosef, and she has 2 Shvatim come from Leah, from Yosef, because she wants to give up a shevet to give to her sister. Rachel, she gets 2 in return. We think we're giving up for another person we're really getting. So too here, Mordechai gave up so much of his life for the Jewish people, and he didn't lose out, he gained. Now, another point we learned from this, we're almost ending, so just do not fear. I want to say a few more things. Another point we learned from all of this, I hope you could all stay with me. You could always leave if you don't want to stay with me, but just give me a little longer. I just want to get the whole Megillah in there. Why did he have to wear 5 clothes? Interesting. It says in the Gemara, why did Mordechai wear 5 clothes? Because when Yosef was reunited with his brothers, he gave Binyamin 5 clothes. And later, who was going to wear the 5 clothes? It's a simon for the future that Mordechai will have 5 clothes. And he also gave Binyamin 300 pieces, I believe, of 300 coins. I forgot if they were silver or gold. I don't remember. In any case, think about that. Mordechai got his greatness because of Binyamin getting the greatness with Yosef, a sign. But wasn't that the worst possible thing for Yosef to do? Didn't the whole problem of Yosef being sold happen because the brothers were jealous of him? Now, when he first meets them, he gives his only brother Binyamin everything, and he gives everybody else. He gave them gifts, but he gave Binyamin, in addition, which is exactly what went wrong in the first place, he gave him 5 garments, right? And he gave him 300 pieces of gold. How do we understand that? So I saw Rav Mordechai Miller from Gateshead, Zecher Tzadik V'Levracha, says the following. He brings, the Seforno says, he gave those gifts to Binyamin to atone for his being sold. How? It says a Jewish slave being sold to a non-Jew is worth 300 gold coins. They all owed Yosef 300. So he says, I'm giving it to Binyamin to atone for your sin. And the 5 garments also, we'll see in a minute. Why does it connect with Mordechai here in the Megillah? Because it says, that's the Gemara in Megillah, by the way, that says that statement that it's to a remez for Mordechai. Why? Because it says about Mordechai that at the very end of the Megillah, or Mordechai HaYehudi, where is it? Mordechai Yehudi Mishnah Lamelech HaChashverosh V'Gadola Yehudim V'Ratzui L'Rov Echav Daresh Tov La'amo V'Daver Shalom L'Chol Zaro. Mordechai Yehudi, when he wears his 5 garments, every Jew is applauding. You deserve to be richer than us. You deserve to live in a mansion. You deserve to give. Why? Because you always are using it to help us. That's if a person wants to avoid jealousy of any kind. If you show that you are a community person, a tzibur mensch, you're a person that helps, it's sarchet tzibur dika mensch. If you help other people, people can't be jealous of you. They say, let them have it. Let them enjoy it. So the same thing, when he gave him the 5 clothes to Binyamin, he's trying to show, I'm giving you 300 coins to atone for you. The 5 garments are also, you should know, anything from now on that somebody else acquires, I'm doing it out of all my love. You can't hate a person like that. You can't hate a Mordechai. You can't hate someone that's only been out for you all the time. Okay, so let's just finish up here a few things, a few different ideas. One is, we have to remember something, but this whole idea, so much of Megillah is, it says he's Gadol, he's Mordechai Gadol. The only other person called Gadol in the whole Tanakh is Moshe Rabbeinu. Why were they both called Gadol? Both these people were willing to stand up for the truth, even if they were unpopular. This is a big lesson, says the Sifsei Chaim. The more you are unafraid to stand up for Hashem and not be embarrassed, the greater you become. And he even ventures to say, the Sifsei Chaim, the countries which were the most assimilated in World War II were eliminated by Hitler. The less, like Hungary was one of the least assimilated countries. It was the least attacked by Hitler compared to other places which were more assimilated. So we have to believe that if a person speaks his mind, he doesn't lose out. This is very important for ladies to remember Shalach Mana's time. You know, not to impress people. We're not here to impress people. We're here to do just like to give. We are here to give on Purim. Haman wanted to destroy all the Jews. We're here to give. We're here to give and give and give and care, and not to think what people think of us. If it looks nice, if it doesn't look nice, if it's if the bows are not on straight, whatever. You know, we're here to make another person feel good. We're not here for ourselves. Another thing to think of, you know, Purim is supposed to be the complement to Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur, we totally deprive ourselves, and on Purim, we totally use this world. We show, you know, this is the time the Jews reaffirmed their commitment to the Torah, even when things were hidden. It's a hidden day, but we are supposed to feel inside about Hashem, even though everything outside of us is crazy. And for a woman, it's not just crazy, it's very difficult, a lot of work involved in Purim. It's constant on the go. But if our kavanas are proper, if we think of Hashem, if we think of what we're here in the world to, don't get taken by this world, which is the biggest test, then we're really reaffirming our commitment to Torah. The luchos were given on Yom Kippur, the second set. And that's when we accepted the Torah, so to speak, but we did it with deprivation. Now we're doing it with simcha. We are accepting the Torah. That's why it's a coupling to Yom Kippur, and it fulfills this. Also, one more thing we should keep in mind is, so we said a lot of things today. We talked about not flaunting what we have, how to fight the Yetzer Hara, to remind ourselves that ultimately Yetzer Hara is just temporary and then it leaves us. we talked a lot about the tefillah, the whole Perek Dalet and a lot of Perek Ches, all about tefillah. The little people matter. How this whole thing unfolded was beyond understanding. How this whole story, how Haman happened to be there, and the whole thing, how they happened. The last thing I want to leave you with is something you may have heard before, which is amazing. It's been studied. There are 3 small letters when they talk about the 10 sons of Haman being hung. There's 3 small letters in the Megillah, and the 3 small letters are Taf, Shin, Zayin. That works out to 1946. In 1946 were the Nuremberg trials, and 10 Nazis were hung at that time. Actually, 1 Nazi died in prison that day, and that was Goebbels. Goebbels was gay. He declared himself later gay. That could be equivalent to the daughter of Haman that died on that day, by the way. That's how it works out. The 11 children of Haman died that day. 11 Nazis were killed. The 10th Nazi to be hung said Purim Fest, 1946. Who would know that there's an allusion to 1946 in the Megillah? The Megillah is our book for Gullus. And Mitzvah Hashem, this should be the last time we have to read the Megillah. Maybe we shouldn't even make it to the Megillah. Mashiach should come today, right now, this minute, with Cookie Dubinsky and Rivka Shabsov leading the way. But in any case, we feel that that if we want to have Mashiach, we have to have these midas that are they're willing to sacrifice for Hashem, not to be afraid of what people think, to not let the hour terrify us, that do tshuva. We should do tshuva shlema no matter what the decree. Look what happened. Purim Fest 1946. There was some kind of payback. Of course, they're going to get a bigger fire roasting in the world to come for all of them and their deeds. But right now, this is what we did see, that there was a manifestation. Why did he say the word Purim Fest? It was not Purim. They died. They saw it. 10 people hung. It was quite a manifestation if you think about it. And we have to think how this world is a temporary place, and we have to sanctify it by our deeds on Purim. I thank you for listening. I thank for the amazing, stupendous, one and only Rivka who makes this happen. And I thank all of you lovely ladies who I enjoy seeing and spending time with. Thank you for listening. I wish you all a freilacha Purim, a simcha Purim, Purim Sameach, and Kol Tuv Salah.
Sameach. Thank you.
Devorah,